In the unforgiving wilderness of Don't Starve Hamlet, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about thriving amidst the chaos. Among the brave souls who have found themselves stuck in this unfamiliar wasteland, one character stands out thanks to their abilities and gadgets: Wheeler. But one question lingers: why hasn't she joined the ranks of Don't Starve Together? Well, today we are going to talk about how Wheeler, a fan favorite character from the world of Don't Starve Hamlet, could maybe join the Don't Starve Together roster. Before we see if Wheeler can actually join the Don't Starve Together roster, we need to first go over Wheeler as a character in Don't Starve, because, we need to know the character to actually see if they would fit. Wheeler has a health pool of 100, which is below average, 150 hunger, which is average, and 200 sanity, which is also average. But this isn't where Wheeler shines. Wheeler shines because she gets an innate speed boost. That's right, a completely free speed boost that gets better the less inventory slots she is using, all the way up to 1.17 times speed. The best part is, though, if you decide to use all of your inventory slots, you will still be faster, with a speed of 1.05. It's not crazy noticeable, but it can make the difference in tight kiting patterns. The crazy part? We haven't even covered half of what makes Wheeler amazing. Next up, let's cover her dodging mechanic. Not only does this give you invincibility frames, meaning if you are particularly cracked with timing, you can fight any creature without armor. Not only can you do this, but the dodge is free and has a pretty forgiving cooldown. You can even use it as both a very powerful combat tool and an exploration tool, since it makes you go faster. And no, we're not done. She also enters the constant with two very, very powerful items. Let's start with the Navigadget. This exploration-based tool allows you to put almost any item inside of it, and then the Navigadget will point you to where more of that item is. This tool is already amazing in the world of Don't Starve, as it helps you find vital resources that are hard to find normally, like gold, pigskin, and generally just everything you could want. This tool alone would be an amazing addition to Don't Starve Together, but what about her other tool, the Pneumatic Horn? The Pneumatic Horn is Wheeler's strong point. It's a weapon that absolutely everybody loves. It's an infinite durability ranged weapon that can use almost anything as ammo. What you use does change the damage done, as can be seen on screen now, and everybody, this thing is powerful. It never breaks, it uses ranged attacks, which are probably the best form of attacks in the entire game, as it is safe damage, and it has the most renewable ammo in the game, which is literally anything. Well, almost anything. Yeah, this thing is so good. But all these upsides must come with a downside, right? Well, besides her rather low 100 health, Wheeler does have one extra downside. She loses 4 inventory slots. But come on. Losing 4 inventory slots for a combat roll, a resource magnet, and an infinite ranged weapon, plus an innate speed boost is not a downside. Wheeler is very obviously one of the better characters in the Don't Starve roster. But could she really work in the world of Don't Starve Together? Let's see if we can make it make sense that she's in Don't Starve Together lore-wise. Luckily for us, Clay has not really developed Wheeler's lore. She's just an adventurer. Yeah, pretty much that's all we have to go on. So they could absolutely cook up some story to how she would find herself in Charlie's Constant. In fact, let's make up a short story now that would work. We're gonna keep it basic though, since, we don't want to add or subtract too much. It's pretty much canon that the Hamlet Islands are located above the Constant, as the traditional sea is replaced by clouds. Wheeler, being an adventurer, would probably get curious what lays below said clouds. After repairing her hot air balloon that she wrecked on her way to the Hamlet, perhaps maybe she could use that to make her way down to the Constant we all know and love today. Again, it's short, it's simple, but it can be built on, and most importantly, it works. Gameplay is a whole different can of worms, however, and this is probably going to be the longest segment of this entire video. Now, it's no secret that Wheeler is an absolutely busted character, but could she really be stronger than the current meta characters? The answer is yes. You see, Wheeler not only is incredibly strong, she also just does stuff that other characters can do way better. First, let's talk about how she would power creep into Wanda and Wartox's abilities. Wheeler's combat role is completely free and provides invincibility frames. The two other characters with a combat role-esque ability are Wartox and Wanda. Wartox can teleport at will, but this costs souls, of which he can only carry 20 at a time. Not only does this add a cost, it's also completely limited. A Wheeler can combat roll as many times as she would like during a boss fight, whereas a Wartox would be limited to 20, unless they do some shenanigans like bringing live rabbits. It also eats into their healing ability, which, is a big downside there. What about Wanda? Well, Wanda has access to the Backstep Watch, which allows her to send herself back in time depending on her age on a 2-second cooldown. Okay, that seems like it's on par with Wheeler's dodge, which takes a 1.5 second cooldown, right? And yes, Wanda does spawn in with almost everything she needs to make this watch, just minus the gold. However, Wanda still has to spend time crafting this item, and if she loses it somehow, she loses her ability to dodge. Not only that, but Wheeler's dodge is arguably better for tanking in this way, since it won't displace her in a fighting situation if timed well. This doesn't necessarily mean that Wheeler's dodge is better than both of these dodges, however. Here's the thing, Wheeler's dodge does come at a cost that Wartox and Wanda don't have to deal with. Her armor is still damaged when performing a successful dodge. This means for a player to be as efficient as possible, they also have to risk not wearing armor, since if they are dodging to use their iframes, they will take armor damage, which is a massive waste of resources. And with Wheeler's health pool of just 100 health, it's safe to say that messing up even one dodge roll will result in your demise. So, you know what? I think Wheeler could keep her dodge as is if she was ported into Don't Starve together. Yes, it's very, very powerful, but it introduces a high amount of skill expression, since if you want to be the best Wheeler out there, you need to be able to time attacks perfectly or risk being one-shot, since wearing armor and dodging would be a huge waste of resources. The next power creep that Wheeler would have would be on Walter and the endgame as a whole, and this has to do with her Pneumatic Horn. Now, it's no surprise that Walter's slingshot takes heavy inspiration from Wheeler's Pneumatic Horn. Semi-cheap craftable ammo, infinite ranged weapon, but the Pneumatic Horn is literally just better. You can load it up with twigs and do more DPS with less setup. She also kind of power creeps into Walter's scout status. You see, Walter is meant to be the backlines character who gets around fast and hits from range, since Walter is very bad when it comes to dealing with damage. The problem is Wheeler not only would take this role, she also would have the ability to frontline. Even if she has a measly 100 health, she still would be able to tank and be on the front lines thanks to how armor works. Whereas Walter would be very quickly going insane if playing with the tanking playstyle. Now yes, Walter does have some stuff that Wheeler would not risk invalidating, such as Wabi, his Chester/personal beefalo, but everything else, yeah, she would basically be doing better. And then more. But the Pneumatic Horn doesn't just risk making Walter worse, it also risks the entire game's balance as a whole. Let's take a look at the Howlitzer. This Hound's Teeth shooting blow dart is a very late game weapon. We're talking you have to beat all 3 mutated bosses to even make this thing. It does 34 regular damage and 34 planar damage on hit, adding up to a total of 68 damage, with 34 of that being armor piercing. And it uses Hound's Teeth as ammo. Not bad, right? Now, here comes the problem. The Pneumatic Horn, when loaded with twigs, yes, twigs, does 45 damage. That is literally 23 less damage than this weapon that's literally requiring you to beat the game to get it. Not to mention, it's using twigs as ammo. Twigs can be found anywhere. Oh yeah, and if you somehow amass yourself a lot of nightmare fuel, which is surprisingly easy, guess what? Now you can do 60 damage per shot. Yes, that's right. The gun that Wheeler spawned in with has the potential to do 8 less damage than the Howlitzer. I would still advise using twigs, however, since the loss in DPS is more than made up for in the sheer amount of ammo that you can carry, but still, it's crazy that you have the option to do 60 damage per shot with a weapon that you literally spawn in with. Let's be honest, there is absolutely no way that Wheeler would be allowed to spawn in with such a powerful weapon at her disposal. So here's 2 ideas that could potentially still allow Wheeler to join the others in this version of the constant. 1, and this is the one that would absolutely suck, removing the Pneumatic Horn entirely. This would balance Wheeler out, but it would not only remove one of her most fun tools in the game, but also force Clay to redo a lot of her quotes, as most of them refer to her Pneumatic in some sort of way. Option 2 is a lot more desirable, simply nerfing the Pneumatic Horn's DPS by a ton. Gems and such doing 60 damage is okay, since gems are very hard to renew, but almost everything else would need to be brought down immensely. Yes, this makes the Pneumatic far more boring, But hey, it's better than removing it, right? Which otherwise they would have to do, because that thing is insane, dude. But enough about the Pumatic, let's talk about her Navigadget. Luckily for Wheeler, I actually don't see any problem with this device. It's incredibly helpful, but just niche enough that it wouldn't cause any major imbalances to be added to the game. It would help locate resources quicker and overall just be great for quality of life. It also has some really niche use cases that I think would allow Wheeler to shine, such as locating the ruins after you've defeated Dragonfly, or finding Lunar Island if you get your hands on some moon rocks, or even finding Moon Cay if you can get some bananas. Yeah, I would actually really like this device in the game. Even if we don't get Wheeler, I think we should definitely at least get the Navigadget in some shape, form, or way. But whatever you do, Clay, please don't lock it behind rifts, because it's not that good. We should also talk about Wheeler's final good trait, her innate speed boost. To be honest, I think they could probably leave this somewhat untouched. The speed boost isn't that great, and you have to have an empty inventory to really benefit from the speed that much. So I don't see how this would shake the game up much. But there is an idea for a downside here that could be interesting. In fact, let's go ahead and talk about her downsides now and how I would personally change them if we were going to move her into Don't Starve Together. The question we need to ask ourselves here is, are her downsides enough to justify bringing her to Don't Starve Together in her new, reworked version that we've kind of made here? Well, having 100 health is barely a downside. Maxwell has 75 health, and there are plenty of people that frontline and tank as Maxwell since armor exists. And if you don't want armor, well, Beefalo will give you 1000 health regardless of what health you have prior. So I wouldn't really count that as a downside. That leaves us with just her 4 less inventory slot penalty, which, let's also face this, isn't that great of a downside on its own. Sure, it hurts Mega Basers, but if you want to Mega Base, there are just many other better characters to do it as, and then you can just switch back when you're done. No, I actually have come up with an even better idea. Now, some of you may obviously hate this idea, I even hate the thought of it, but I think it's a downside worth her many, many upsides. You know how she gets a speed boost when her inventory is empty? Well, what if we let her speed boost scale down to a 10% speed boost penalty with a full inventory? For reference, this means that Wheeler with a full inventory would move at the same speed as someone wearing a piggyback. Wheeler with a half full inventory would move at default speed, and Wheeler with an empty inventory would move at her max increased speed. This will absolutely hurt, especially people like me who always keep their inventories full, but it pushes Wheeler into more of a scout-like playstyle. If you want to move fast, you have to pack lightly. Of course, this would have to factor in backpacks as well. You see, in Don't Starve, backpacks don't count as Wheeler's personal inventory, so you can safely store all you want in a backpack and still benefit from speed. It would be kind of cheap avoiding her downside by using an item that everybody uses anyway, so yeah, backpacks would need to count. We won't have the items slow her down any further, but we will add them to her total personal inventory count. So a backpack will still increase her efficiency, but she can still be slowed down with it. Overall, I absolutely think Wheeler could work in Don't Starve Together. With some minor tweaks and changes, that is. Let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see Wheeler added to Don't Starve Together. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and of course subscribe if you aren't already. I already have some interesting ideas for what a Wheeler skill tree could look like too, so if that's something you are interested in, please make sure to let me know. Also, YouTube thinks you would like to watch this video, so let me know if they are right or not. This has been Polarlotus, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.